All right. Well, good afternoon. So my name is Jessica Hillenbrand, and I am finishing out my time in W231 with this final presentation. So for my final presentation, kind of was given the option to do something with resume and job search tools that we have. And so for at least for mine, I will be talking about how we can improve those search systems for Indiana University students. One of the things that I've noticed being, about to exit college and finish out my final year as a senior is some of these tools could definitely be improved, and also basically we can move away a little bit from the technology side and talk about some of the things that IU across the board can implement to help make their students basically successful post grad. So, all right. So for if you hear any papers rustling or anything, it's just me moving my notes. So when I talk about this. All right, so in my proposal, I talked about questions for discussion, and I had five basic ones, and I'm going to cover each of those today and answer all of them, and basically go through what I think is the most important thing to bring up when proposing something like this to implement into a school. So, for the first question, what issues are students having currently with getting a job post graduation? Why are our current solutions not working for every student? What are the costs for implementing a program that would be this solution? Is it only the resume and job building tools that are ineffective? And how will revamping the current system benefit IU students? So, like I said, I'll go through the answers of each of these in my presentation today, and we'll move on from there. All right, so to kind of give basically background for why I think this is an issue that we should be talking about, um, for the first question, current issues with our post-graduation job search. So post-grad life is not easy for many of our students, and that's across the board. That's not just from Indiana University. So a few fast facts, millennials make up about 40% of the unemployed in the United States, and it is projected that by 2020, millennials will be an estimated 46% of all U.S. workers. So I think this is very important to bring up, mostly because students come out with this degree after spending all this money and they're not finding a job. For a few reasons why this is actually the case. So higher university tuitions and student loan debt is actually occurring more so now than ever before. When I think of my parents, at least, they had little to no student loan debt, and if they had any, has been paid off now pretty easily. And now that is not the case, at least for the millennial generation, in the next, in the last 10 years and what will be in the next 10 years. This loan debt and these tuition rates have just increased substantially. So that is one reason. Another reason is there is a very, while it is an improving job market, it is still not relatively strong in the sense of what millennials and post grad students are needing in order to find a job. And then lastly, area of work not needed in areas where students are not looking. So one of these things that I think is very important is there is a lot of work out there in a way, like I talked about with the job market is somewhat improving. There is more showing up. However, many students are not majoring or choosing to study in these areas, and that is actually becoming quite an issue because there is a demand for work, but it is not necessarily what is being sought after. So, to discuss the current layout of what we're actually dealing with here. So, like I said, for my proposal, it's not necessarily technically improving the technological side, but it will have some aspects to it. But it's really working with, but using both technology and improving the student as a whole, so that way they can actually feel like that they are prepared graduating school. So the current layout, this is just an example from my page. I'm part of the School of Public and Environmental Affairs at IU Bloomington, and this is kind of what I see when I look up the basically the CDO Career Development Office. That's what that stands for. Um, Postings right here are all shown up, and then it gives me a few other options. So as you can see over here, we have some resume postings, some internship availability, advising appointments, and the latest news. You can see that all around here, and then over here, this is where I would normally click to basically find a job for me, opportunities, whether it's internship or post-grad opportunities. So it is all there as far as what is there, but as far as crossing that bridge and actually succeeding and getting a hold of these opportunities, I think those things can be improved. So why are current solutions not working for every student? So like I said, the technology is here, um, but obviously it is not working because there's 40% of our students are still not finding jobs. So part of this is poor preparation. And I kind of went through a list of these. Most of our skill set that I've noticed, at least when now coming out of this, is I would have loved more experience with more hands-on work than I kind of received, in school. A lot of it is classroom work, and that is very, very important. And I'm not disregarding that whatsoever. But I think to make a student successful in the workforce, they literally need to be in that workforce. So many students, while they are heavily encouraged to graduate with an internship, it's not required for a lot of schools. Work experience most of the time is just minimum wage jobs. One of the really important ones is the skill set. A lot of employers have talked about how the skill set is just not there with what they need from their post-grad students. And I think that's very important to bring up. I'll bring that up again later. There's also a lack of networking. So unless, outside of a family or friend that would be working in a company, um, very hard to be able to find a job when you have no network connections. Um, Also, there's been what I feel is there's a lack of resume prep and interview skills developed for students. I think this is heavily improved in the classroom, but I find that that only really is utilized in business school interested students and not necessarily outside of that. So in other majors or areas of study. No follow up. Many of I don't know if I know this because I've been in through the business school, but following up on whatever your requests or whatever interview you have with a company, very important and very it shows that you a student does care a lot, but I feel like that's not happening as much. And then obviously the no selling point, you're not going to get a job unless you have that one thing that sets you apart from everyone else. And so these are a few of the things that I feel like are current solutions that are not working. But we will get there. So, is it the only resume and job building tools that are ineffective? So, to emphasize this point again, obviously, I think the answer is no. We have all these tools and we are using all of them very effectively. It is the part of it that we are just missing, the bridge to this gap that we are just not hitting. Because obviously our students are still graduating and it was obviously awesome, but post grad, still difficult to find a job. So what I think is the reason for this, lacking in on-site preparation for our students. I think that is really the main goal, main thing here that is lacking. Internship experience is not required for all departments in order to graduate. Um, and I think that's very important as well. And then obviously our skill set of students is lacking in the workforce due to needs not being met in the classroom. So I think these are more so the reasons that students are not hitting home with post-grad jobs and are instead just relying on these tools and trying to figure it out themselves when only a Google search can take you so far. And then lastly, the competition is incredibly high in the job search anyway. So in order for Indiana University to stand out with its students, they have to be at the top of their game, and that is not always the case. So my solution is called the Indiana University Job Assistant Initiative. Um, we have IU Jobs, we have the CDO assistant tools, all fantastic works to be used. However, I think we are just missing that bridge in getting these students jobs after school. So the IU Job Assistant Initiative would provide meetings with experienced mentors. I think this is very important to have because I think students are just missing that little bit and could use a mentor to help them succeed. We obviously have a resume builder tool. However, that one-on-one interaction with somebody that maybe, for instance, conduct a mock interview and actually look at their resume and see right there before they even go into the interview, what would their first reaction be seeing something on a resume? Maybe they don't understand something, maybe they wouldn't figure out what they're talking about. It's as much of an interview for the other side as it is for the student. And so keeping everything as transparent and clear as day is very important. More in-depth job search provider based off of skill sets. I think job search providers are awesome and do give a lot of opportunity for students at IU to exceed. However, they are not very focused necessarily. You can narrow your search down to location and zip code, and then if they try and keep it so it is geared towards what you want. However, that is more of what your major is and not necessarily what skills you have, which I think that could be improved upon. Classroom and workforce integration. So this is, I think, would be very important to include, and I'll actually add these other two bullet points. So co-op is something that I found very, very, very beneficial, and I know that most students do not go through it, and I myself did actually not go through it, but everyone that has really enjoys it. The only trouble with it is that they graduate late or have to take summer classes in order to make up for those hours, which I feel like is not the case or should not be the case. Taking classroom study courses should not be the reason that you're graduating late because you are improving on your education with the classroom courses along with your work courses. So I would, in that setting, I would say I would propose that students consider, the 3.5 year track as more of their main goal, and then basically the eighth semester of the fourth year, that would be the co-op opportunity where students can pursue that. Requiring an internship for students, that should be something that IU students should have to do in order to graduate, just so that way it forces them to be a part of something where they can actually get that one-on-one work experience. And then, yeah, interview and skill set prep. Classroom does a lot of great interview skills. However, it's, one-on-one and real world situations do help. So what are the costs for implementing something like this? New technology would probably be needed. We've already improved on the Career Development Office site, but so it's not necessarily necessary. But I think, creating more of those skill set based job search engines, for instance, would definitely benefit. New experienced mentors, that would require hiring people that are very experienced in that area and willing to provide help. Integrating business within schooling, so requiring students to take some sort of business courses, so that way, no matter what their major, they always have something to fall back on. Required skill set courses, improving on skills rather than majors, and then a priceless investment. I think it's really important to bring this up just because no matter what the cost is of implementing this kind of program, it's going to be priceless for the student that graduates. So how will revamping the current system benefit IU students? It will provide more opportunities to succeed, basically give that bang for your buck. It'll keep students interested in the four-year programs. That way they're not being drawn to community colleges, feeling like they can't afford a 4-year and not getting much out of it. It'll set IU students ahead of other programs regardless of the major, and the higher success rates in the job market for IU students will start appearing. So with that, I'd like to conclude my IU Job Initiatives proposal, and I hope that this answered a question for you. And I really enjoyed this class. I really enjoyed working with you, Professor, and I hope that everything goes well from here on out. So thank you.